Hello, everyone. My name is Ana Gavi, and I'm a passionate advocate for gender equality from Tampico, Mexico. And I have been part of Girl Up, or as I like to call it, my second family, a safe place where I can express my thoughts, opinions, emotions without being judged for almost 3 amazing years now. And I'm so incredibly honored and beyond excited to be here with the incomparable Malala Yousafzai.
Hi, so nice to be with you today and to have our conversation.
Thank you so much, Malala, for being here. It means the world to us. What you have done and accomplished for us girls, young women out there is something to admire. And ever since I read your first book, I Am Malala, the girl who stood up for education and was shot with the Taliban, my source of inspiration, I've had so many questions, and let's all forget the goosebumps that I would love to ask you and that I'm sure that everyone would like to know the answers to. So without further ado, I'd like to start by asking you about the essentials of education. So as countries continues to battle health, social, and economic crises around the world, why should girls' education still be a top priority?
Firstly, I want to highlight that girls' education is not a separate issue, and it's not in isolation from all the rest of the issues that we are talking about right now. We want to talk about reducing poverty. We want to talk about tackling climate change. We also want to talk about bringing equality in the world that we want to live in. So all of these issues connect with girls' education. There are researches and studies that show us that when we invest in the quality education of girls, we reduce poverty, we reduce the likelihood of wars, we create a better economy for all countries around the world. We also, improve the efforts that we're making for climate change and for a green environment for all of us. So all of these issues are connected. And girls' education is also a key element in bringing equality around the world, because when girls are educated, when they're given safe, quality, and complete education, they are in a much better position to explore opportunities in their life. They are in a much better position to take care of their safety and the safety of others. They are financially independent. They can stand on their own 2 feet. They're not dependent on others. They are protected from early child marriages. They're also protected from so many other issues that they could face if they were not in a position where they had the education. So it improves their lives, but it also improves our society, our community, bringing in all the benefits that I mentioned. So if you look at it from all aspects, like, political, social, economical, like all of these, the advantages that girls' education would bring are enormous.
I can agree with you more. I think girls' education, it's like a little chain that connects to the bigger problems. And yeah, well, similar question. How can educating girls create a positive impact in the world?
Girls' education is, for me, it's one of the most important thing in my life, and that's something that I never get tired talking about, because I myself was one of the girls who could not go to school when I was 11 years old. And I vividly remember that day when I woke up in the morning. It was the 15th of January 2009, and I realized that the ban that the Taliban had announced on girls' education was actually something real, like it was happening. Girls were not allowed to be in school anymore. And just the opportunity of sitting in a classroom and having some books in front of you and listening to a lecture by your teacher, like all of those things that we take for granted, just became so special to me, because I realized that this is not something that every person can have. Not every girl can have this opportunity to be in a classroom. So since then, I have been fighting for it. And we all know that there are 130 million girls right now who are not in school. So this is a huge loss to those girls, but also to our world. And studies show that if we do not invest in girls' education, we lose up to $30 trillion in the world economy. So it's a financial loss. It's a loss for those individuals as well, because of the difficulties that they face, because of the dependency that they have to confront in their lives, and how they are often dependent on their father's family or their husband's family, or if they're living in a patriarchal society, their lives are just so different when they don't have access to education and job opportunities. So again, it just reminds us of the fact that education is important. It's the key to creating a better world for all of us. So we must invest in girls' education, because the studies have shown that when you invest in girls' education, you can tackle climate change. If you don't have investment in girls' education, and if we ignore it, and if we ignore issues like climate change, that puts up to 4 million girls at risk of losing their education every year. And even in this COVID time, so many girls have been limited to their houses. They have not been able to take their online classes because they're doing the household chores, and they're helping their families, or they are expected to do more than their brothers and the boys in the family, and some of them are considered as a financial burden, so they are married off, or they are asked to earn for their family. They become the financial supporters of their family, and that has put there is a risk that it could put millions of more girls at risk of losing their education.
Yeah, it's really awesome that you said that. After I read your book, I came to know that girls education is so important, and I've actually created a quote of mine that it's the key to eradicate poverty is education. So yeah, thank you for that. And well, that takes me to another question. Globally, we made significant progress in closing access gaps, especially in primary education. However, we also fallen behind as a result of COVID, as you mentioned. The pandemic has not only posed challenges to access, but quality of education too. So why do you think it is important to continue focusing on both access and quality?
So as you mentioned, the pandemic has put the education of many girls at risk, and Malala Fund conducted a research which shows that 20 million more girls are at risk of losing their education during this pandemic. We want to see the number go down. We already have 130 million girls out of school. We cannot lose the progress that we have made over the past few decades. We cannot see the number increase. We want to see drop down to zero one day. That's the commitment that our leaders have made in their sustainable development goals. And before you know it, time passes by, and it's another 5, 6, or 7 years, and nothing is done. The financial commitments that countries are making have been stagnant over the past few years. Some countries have even reduced their support. So in terms of what needs to be done, I feel like rather than reducing and cutting their funding for education, I think all our world leaders must ensure that they double their efforts for education. They should especially focus on girls' education because of the difficulties and the challenges that are there for girls in having access to education. So we need to work harder. We need to invest even more in education in this moment, rather than reducing the support towards it. And I think that is the support is needed more than ever in this time.
Of course, the future is female. Okay, and I'd like to ask you about your situation back in 2008. When the Taliban, an extremist group, took control of your town, Swat Valley in Pakistan, and banned girls from going to school. And there's this possibility that Taliban will reemerge in Afghanistan and similarly ban girls from going to school once again. What is your message to girls in Afghanistan and in other parts of the world where there are serious threats associated with attending school?
Mm-hmm. So, for me, the 2 to 3 years from 2007 till 2009 were the most difficult days and difficult times of our life. That sort of the dark period that we faced. And in Swat Valley, we had hundreds and thousands of people. They faced internal displacement. More than 400 schools were bombed. Girls' education was banned, and that was the life under the Taliban. It's there. It's part of history now. And we have seen the same situation in Afghanistan in the past as well. And even right now, there are areas where girls are not allowed to be in school, or they are limited to religious education only, and they're not given the school education, or their education is just limited to primary school, and they're not allowed to go to secondary school or universities or take jobs. I think if we want to bring peace to Afghanistan, if we want to ensure that it is a sustainable long-term peace, then we have to ensure that the girls in Afghanistan can have access to school and education, that the women in Afghanistan can have access to equal opportunities, that they must feel safe. If women and girls are not safe in Afghanistan, there is no peace in Afghanistan. So I think that should be the priority of all the governments, all the states that are involved, all the civil society members who are involved right now. We are already seeing that there are, civil society members, including women, who are part of the peace process. But I hope that their voices are heard, and I hope that people hear the voices of Afghan girls as well, because we are seeing stories of these amazing and incredible girls from Afghanistan who are interested in science, and they are doing, they're exploring technology, and they're looking into robotics, and they have dreams, and they have a vision that they want to do something for their community and for their country. So we should not make their life difficult, allow them to have the life that they deserve, where they can get their education, where they can have equal rights as everybody else. Their gender should not be a barrier in their way to have a safe and healthy life.
Awesome. And I'd like to ask you that you've traveled across the world and you met youth in disparate places with unique challenges. What are some patterns you've noticed in this type of challenges girls in particular face as they pursue educational opportunities?
So, in many places, there are always difficulties there for girls, and it can vary depending on the region. In some places, it could be issues like, the cultural norms and patriarchy, and that could be a barrier for girls in having access to the opportunities in their life. In other places, their movement might not be limited to their, to their houses. They could be able to explore opportunities and explore jobs, but then they are not safe in those places. As you mentioned, in our initial conversation that we had before this, there could be femicides, or there could be, acid attacks, or there could be harassment that they could face. So these are the issues that are there for girls in so many places. So safety is a barrier for many girls to even go out of their houses. Yeah. And even so and we have seen that the situations are even worse when it comes to refugee camps, or girls and children who are displaced. Their lives are much harder, and a lot of them are sort of a burden on the family, so their parents prefer that their daughters get married as soon as they can. And I have but then on the other hand, we have inspirational women and girls in those camps who are becoming advocates for education, and they are spreading the word of education there. And I got the opportunity to visit refugee camps in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and I see that there are women and girls there who are speaking out, and they are the voices of change in those places.
What a wonderful way to finish this. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for your time. Words cannot express how the Girl Up family is so excited to hear from you during this Global Leadership Summit 2021. I'm sure that everyone watching is so moved by your words, by your work, what you have done and what you have accomplished. It's been the 10 most wonderful minutes of my life conversating with you, honestly. And I just want to thank you for
so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Anika. It was so nice talking to you, and wish you good luck in everything that you do.